You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh! Fucking bitch.
Today, the vice president underscoring that the administration is investigating.
I didn't say, and I don't think any other official within the Trump administration said, that officers who engaged in wrongdoing would enjoy immunity. That's absurd. What I did say is that when federal law enforcement officers violate the law, that is typically something that federal officials would look into. We don't want these guys to have kangaroo courts. We want them to actually have real due process, real investigation, because, again, sometimes they're accused of wrongdoing, and it turns out when you learn the context, they didn't actually do anything wrong. But, of course, we're going to investigate these things. Of course, we're investigating the Renee Good shooting.
So today, calling for a, quote, real investigation into that shooting that was caught on camera, pretty different than what we heard just 2 weeks ago.
I can believe that her death is a tragedy while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers.
All right, let's get off the sidelines, head into the arena. My panel is here, and we're also joined by CNN anchor Sarah Seidner. She is live on the ground for us in Minnesota. Sarah, walk us through a little bit more of what we heard from the vice president, kind of the reasoning behind his being there today. And, of course, at the center of all of this story today, the story of a 5-year-old child who was detained.
Yeah, everyone in the city talking about that incident that happened. Vice President J.D. Vance came to Minneapolis with the idea of, as he put it, trying to calm tensions here, coming to talk to folks here to try to calm things down, calm the chaos, as he put it, and admitting that ICE did make some mistakes, although he says 99.9% of the time they do the right thing, and then when one thing goes wrong, that of course sometimes mistakes are made. But when he got here, he spent more time blaming local and state officials and standing up for ICE than he did talking about some of the issues that people are seeing both on their phones and in person that ICE is creating here. So you're hearing from him a kind of almost a little bit of doublespeak, because he is saying, look, it is the blame lands on the local and state officials for not cooperating with ICE, when you have people here saying, look, you've got so many ICE officers here, they are causing the chaos. This is not to be blamed just on local and state officials for not cooperating. What you're also hearing from people is, if he came here to calm things down, what he didn't do a damn thing towards that effort. People here, I think, will be calm because of what is happening above us, the weather. Things are going to get so cold. We're in the negative degrees as we speak now, and it's only going to get worse. And there is a planned protest that will happen tomorrow, which is not out in the streets. It's actually to do nothing, to not go shopping, to not engage, to stay away from helping the economy, for example, to stop and to make their voices heard in the most quiet way possible by not engaging in anything. But then you have this issue of the 5-year-old. You have a school district saying that several students were detained by ICE, including a 5-year-old. They're saying that some of the students were used as bait to get the families to open the door for ICE in order for them to arrest someone inside. And that has really riled folks here and stirred emotions. But J.D. Vance responded to a question about that when a reporter asks him about that incident concerning the 5-year-old and why ICE would detain a 5-year-old child. Listen to what he said.
Father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy. And I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien. And then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death?
A lot of the response that we're hearing is, well, they could have tried to call the child's mother or any other family members. But there is a lot of concern about whether or not children are being used as bait. And we are going to hear from that school district and an attorney that is representing the families in just about an hour. So we will see what their response is to J.D. Vance. But he also said something I thought was quite curious. He says, look, why is there so much chaos here in Minneapolis when it comes to ICE enforcement? He mentioned other cities where enforcement happened, including Los Angeles, where he tried to say there wasn't as much chaos, and Chicago. But there was a lot of chaos in both Los Angeles and Chicago. Even in Chicago, a judge slapping an injunction on ICE for its tactics against clergy and journalists. And so you have to wonder, okay, is he looking and comparing these things and saying, look, things are much worse here? And one of the things why there may be things that seem